It's that time of the year when parents and children alike are able to look forward to being in the school holiday. The early mornings stop and there's less pressure for everyone to get out of the house. And actually, it feels like life should begin to get a bit easier outside of the normal routine. However, for some families, particularly in the long summer break, the opposite can seem to happen. Parents can notice that their child begin to get more anxious, maybe be a bit more emotional, or they need more reassurance. Some children get irritable or become withdrawn, while others are seen clingier than usual. Parents can also feel less settled themselves, particularly if there's a long break in therapy, whether that's because the school therapist is away or between the families and the therapist that they normally see, there's longer breaks because of holidays. It can be a confusing time, particularly if school has been stressful during the term. Surely taking school out of the equation should help relieve some of that pressure. But children aren't only responding to the presence or absence of school, it's everything else that around it that changes. One of the worries that parents can have is that if their child misses their therapist or the therapy sessions, is that a sign that their child's becoming too dependent on the therapy? That's not how I would think about it. Relationships are really important, and one of the things therapy offers is a reliable, predictable relationship where experiences are held, they're understood, and they're thought about. Missing someone who's become important doesn't mean your child is dependent, but it tells us that the relationship has meaning. It's also worth remembering that therapy isn't just about the only thing that's changed. During the summer, the routines completely disappear. Friendships become less regular, parents are juggling different demands, and the rhythm of life completely shifts. Therapy often is pausing at exactly the same time as other sources of predictability disappear. So there's three things to think about for children who may be struggling with that transition from the end of the school term into those early weeks of the holidays. The first is predictability. So in long school holidays, the first thing that comes to mind, it's not school itself, it is predictability. Children rely on knowing what's happening tomorrow, the next day, and for the rest of the week. This is really important, where they know where they're going, what they're doing, when they're doing it. Children find the rhythm of changes and transitions from activities much more easier. In school holidays, having freedom is great, but that uncertainty of not really sure what we're doing tomorrow, whilst is quite a nice thing to do, it raises potential anxiety. There isn't a wrong way of experiencing it. If some children do find the freedom of the holidays wonderful, but others find it really difficult, that's fine. The second thing to think about, as I mentioned earlier, is about relationships. Therapy isn't just about a conversation that happens once a week. Over time, a therapist becomes someone who a child knows that they can go and take their difficulties to, share thoughts and feelings, be validated. Things that they might feel confused or overwhelmed about or want to check out or try out. Over time, children internalize the process and the relationship of the therapist, and this is what part of the therapeutic healing is about. This means children can manage difficult experiences for themselves. Planned breaks in therapy can be difficult and they can raise anxiety, particularly if a child's in the middle of a change process. Children don't often say that they will miss their therapist. In fact, some often look forward to the break, but they don't quite understand the implications of that, and how they show if it's impactful is through changes in behavior, their mood, and that need for reassurance. And the third thing to think about is preparation. Children cope much better with transitions when they're thought about rather than announced. Preparation isn't just about telling a child there won't be therapy for a few weeks. It's talking together and thinking with them about how that might feel, the pros and the cons. The pros of not having to go week in, week out, but also the downside of maybe missing their therapist or not having that opportunity to share or take some of the difficulties. It's also really important that children know that they're being held in mind. Just because a therapist is on holiday, it doesn't mean they're not thinking about their clients, believe it or not. Very often, it's not the break that's the hardest, it's the uncertainty. So, quite often, therapists like to send a card, particularly in the 6 weeks holidays, just to say, look, hey, I'm thinking about you, even though that we're not meeting. So, if you've noticed that your child seems more unsettled during the holidays, it doesn't mean something's wrong, but it's how the routine has tipped itself upside down. And for those children that love it, great. And those that don't, it's understandable. Be curious about what's going on. Try and create your own new routine. I often find that by the end of the 6 week holiday, plenty of families have found a new rhythm, and then the transition back into the structured routine has to happen, and plenty will struggle with that, and plenty won't. Don't worry if there isn't an answer to every question your child throws at you or the uncertainties that are raised. But if you can respond with some confidence and compassion, then your child will be much better for it and you'll be able to manage those behaviours.